He was local, but he was international and cosmopolitan. He was intellectual, and he was a people person. And that wide set of interests enabled him to relate to people from all walks of life. John grew up in an ethnic neighborhood in Little Italy. From that beginning, he went to Princeton and then graduated from Yale Law School. After Yale Law School, he was part of what I would call the best and the brightest. Went down to Washington and served under Lindsay. He was a combination of so many excellent qualities, which all became important during the New York City bankruptcy when he was the first deputy mayor. And he was the key to it. It was his critical role to bring everyone together and get New York through its most perilous hour. John's most important legacy was the need for government and the private sector to work together for, in that case, survival, but for maximum benefit over time.
I was asked to talk about public-private partnerships. It's one of those neat words that defies definition.
The essence of what people can learn from John's life and experiences and accomplishments is that when you have a person who both has high horsepower intellectually and a great natural feel and interest in people, combine that with integrity and vision, and you get great results. Now, those qualities are not that easy to find. You get someone as extraordinary as John once in every generation or two. I'm not sure that people can replicate what he did, but they can certainly be guided and aspire to it. I'm particularly delighted that Susan Zuccotti, John's widow, could be with us for this event and this celebration of John's life and of our new recipient of the Zuccotti Prize.
Well, that video tells John's story better than any introduction that I can give. But what it doesn't show is John's connection to the RPA and what John meant to me personally. John was a long-serving member of the RPA Board of Directors and Executive Committee. He guided RPA's work in adding PATH train access to Newark Airport, promoting redevelopment and public sector improvements around gateway communities, and perhaps most notably, investing in Trans-Hudson connections. Thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure bill, John's dream is now coming to fruition in the newly funded Gateway project, being so ably steered by Chris Calori. Where's Chris? John occupied a special place in my life. I know if he had been here today, many of you would have rushed over to shake his hand and exchange a few words about the city, the future of our city, the country, and the world. Or perhaps you'd chat about children, careers, fishing, or maybe a good wine, an interest he and I shared. John was a modest man of rock-solid integrity. He didn't care about credit, but he did care about getting things done. John was my hero, and the award that bears his name today is going to another hero, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. On March 26th, a cargo ship leaving the port of Baltimore rammed the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Within seconds, the bridge collapsed. As one of the largest container ports in the country, that wasn't just a local problem, it was a national problem. It was also Wes Moore's first major test during his first term as governor. He was in Boston when he got the call shortly after 1:30 a.m. On less than 3 hours sleep, he was on the phone with Secretary Buttigieg and declared a state of emergency. An early, near-empty JetBlue flight took him back to Baltimore. When the president asked him what he needed, he was ready with clear answers and plans. And he's been as steadfast ever since. A Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Johns Hopkins, a Rhodes Scholar, a U.S. Army captain, an Afghanistan combat veteran, and one-time small business owner, Wes Moore was CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation before he ran for governor. There he oversaw the distribution of $600 million to lift families out of poverty. He took that experience with him as governor, and it informed his ambitions to revitalize his state's economy. One element of his plan was a statewide service year to create valuable experience and a pathway to college affordability for all high school graduates. As a longtime advocate of universal national service, that caught my attention. I share with the governor his view of public service as both an opportunity and a uniter. I applaud him for having created a model for the country, and I, for one, stand ready to help. A key part of his plan is transportation. Maryland was home to the first railroad and the first national highway in the U.S. And if you count a balloon piloted by a 13-year-old boy in 1784, that state is also the home of the first nation's first air flight. Maryland has always viewed transportation as an economic engine to lift people out of poverty. With a recent DOT award of $7 billion for improved rail service, Wes Moore is keeping up that tradition. And he's making sure that efforts to improve mass transit focus on the people who rely on it the most. Here's how. Take the politics out of planning, ensure value-based project funding, implement procurement reform. As a former chair of the New York State Thruway Authority, I can tell you that's music to my ears, because that's exactly what we tried to do during my tenure there. Now I'd like to come full circle and return to my dear friend John Zuccotti. He would have appreciated the parallels between him and Governor Moore. Both came from humble beginnings, went to elite schools, and did well by doing good. Both took a regional approach to the local economy. Both cared less about credit and more about getting things done. Both are champions of the unheard. Governor Moore once said, "Every room you're in, you were there because that room would be incomplete if you weren't there." As for John, he was in the room where everything happened. If he was there, that's the room you'd want to be in. Governor Moore, we all want to be in the room with you, and we're glad that the room in which it's happening is this room with the RPA. And now I'd like to invite our wonderful and dedicated chair, RPA's Ray McGuire, to make the official award presentation. Ray?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Howard Wright, also, who runs the New York Public Library, with whom I spent a fair amount of time. And to all of you, it is great to see you. Last year, when I stood here, I invoked, as I will do this year, but last year I invoked a great 20th century philosopher, Sir James Brown, and I said, I feel good. This year, I'm going to invoke, on perhaps a little more serious note, another 20th century philosopher, Martin Luther King Jr., when he told us in that seminal letter from Birmingham jail, we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. Looking around this room, it is great to see so many familiar faces, everyone dressed up, looking good. I think we have more than 700 plus people here on a Friday afternoon, Manhattan Pier 60. And as this is my second anniversary as chair of RPA, I'm honored to stand here on the shoulders of my esteemed board members and chairs, and I do want to take leave to acknowledge my immediate predecessor, Scott Reckler. Scott, thank you for being here. As you all know, Scott led the RPA during the completion of its fourth regional plan and continues to serve this city and region with such great distinction. Scott is not the only luminary in this galaxy of the good and great. Looking around this room, especially the head table, must be the most dedicated, powerful, and talented room of urbanists and public servants anywhere in the city. Let me humbly observe that only an organization like the RPA could convene such a gathering. So I want to thank each of you for being here and supporting this historic organization. And while I will not go through an exhaustive list, where I come from, when you get the podium, the pulpit, I mean the podium like this, you're always invited to give a few shout outs. So let me give a few. Tom Wright, thank you. Through each strategic plan and every strategic issue, your leadership has reflected insight, judgment, intellect, passion, and compassion. RPA is fortunate to have you as our leader. Thank you, Kate Slevin. Thank you for your distinguished leadership and your impressive review of all the great work that RPA has been doing. And to the superb staff who have been acknowledged by Kate, but you guys have done an extraordinary job, and there is also the extraordinary executive committee and board. Thank you for your commitment to this organization. And indulge me, you all, if you will, if I could please ask the board of RPA to please stand. Board members, please stand. And here before me at what they call the head table, I see many of the most important elected and public leaders of our region. You are the people who actually have the power to improve the lives of our citizens and ensure a better future. Everyone here is in support of the cause that you are making your lives work. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. When I think back on my first year as chairman of the board of RPA, I remain grateful for the opportunity to serve and to make a difference. Kate has reviewed the numerous successes of RPA. What I appreciate most about RPA is that it acts as a bridge between the public and private sectors. RPA brings forward the best ideas and research and supports the public servants who are willing to, on occasion, take our advice and turn it into reality. RPA stays above the parochial and sometimes short-sighted politics of the day. We lean in to do what is best, use the in-depth research and analysis to guide meticulous planning and strategic advocacy initiatives for the long term. Our sole mission is a long-term economic and social progress of this entire region. Our passion is creating, driving, and uplifting the best ideas to invest in the people and infrastructure of the region that we so deeply love. And what else can I say about the region and about leadership? A man who is always as committed to the region and its infrastructure is a man about whom Howard has spoken, John E. Zuccotti. John's life recognized his commitment to public service. John was a leader in the public and private sectors, and he saw how each was necessary to create better communities and foster opportunities for future generations. Each year since his passing, RPA has recognized leaders for following his example. Previous recipients include President Joe Biden, MCHAC Chairman, who's with us tonight, Tony Koshia, Deputy Mayor Alicia Glenn, HUD Secretary Henry Cisneros, Port Authority Executive Director, who also is here today, Rick Cotton, City Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. And last year, all three governors, Hochul, Lamont, and Murphy. So in this note of gubernatorial excellence, it's my distinct honor to introduce this year's recipient of the RPA John E. Zuccotti Award to Governor Westmore, the 63rd and first Black governor of Maryland. NB. nota bene. I have known the governor for most of his adult life. When he announced that he was leaving our then firm Citigroup, I asked him why. He said he was going on a book tour. I said, okay, but whose book? He said, mine. I wondered how could he have worked 12 to 16 hours a day, performing at the top of his class, and have time to write a book. And a few years later, he called me with another unusual, to be generous, announcement. He told me that he was about to run for the governor of Maryland. Reminding ourselves that when he started out, he polled so low that I thought he was Ray McGuire running for the mayor of New York City. He's now a world-class governor, and Ray McGuire is doing the honor of introducing him. Doesn't get much better than that. As you've heard, he's been instrumental not just in the recovery of the Port of Baltimore in what by all standards is record time, but also driving the vital funding to rail in his state, helped secure $7 billion in awards, moving faster, safer, more reliable, and more convenient for all of our passengers. Now, I must admit that I did hear some folks asking how the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut-based Regional Plan Association was giving its most distinguished award to the governor of some other state. I don't think that I need to remind anybody that he was born in the Bronx. What do they do up there? Is that what they do in the Bronx? Born in the Bronx, worked right down the street at one of the New York City's most celebrated financial institutions, or that he ran the Robin Hood Foundation, as you've heard, eradicating poverty. No, I don't think so. In this city, in this state, he's got receipts. If there's a moment in time when the need is desperate for a leader who has demonstrated in his history the height of success in the private and the public sectors, who has lived the credo of we have more in common than that which divides us, who commands respect in the streets and in the suites, who meets the hardest battles with intellect, an unwavering moral compass, experienced and refined judgment, whose family is blessed and brilliant and faithful, then the time is now, and the leader is Wes Moore. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in saluting Governor Wes Moore as the 2024 John E. Zuccotti awardee.
Thank you again so much. Thanks so much for being here.
Governor, come on in. We need a picture.
Yeah, we gotta get a picture. You're in the middle.
You're in the middle. Come on in.
Oh, and here, this is a map from the first regional plan of the Atlantic region. Thanks so much. Everybody look right here.